Infanterie geht vor.
This wonderful footage shows German infantry advancing on the Soviet stronghold of Brest-Litovsk during the first days of the attack on the Soviet Union. It fits in well with part 2 of the series, which covers the SS Formation Das Reich through the end of 1941, including Operation Typhoon the Wehrmacht's desperate final attempt to take Moscow. Incredible primary source materials including this platoon leader's war diary, his photographs, situational maps, film footage, and other related sources are used, so stick around, it's worth it. In part 1 we looked at the days leading up to the invasion. If you haven't seen it, I suggest you go back and take a look. Juni 1941. Der Deutsche Rundfunk verkündet den Beginn.
Vor der Reichskanzlei in den frühen Morgenstunden des historischen 22. Juni.
The beginning of an offensive against the Soviet Union was announced today on the German radio, and it affects us like a bolt of lightning out of the blue. We hear that German troops have crossed the border and know that we are relatively far from where it is all happening. The topic of heated discussion for everyone is why they have left us behind. It's incomprehensible why they've kept us from where we belong, up at the front, and our unit's morale couldn't be any worse. It seems that mutiny is in the air. Many believe that we'll certainly be too late, that it will all be over before we get to the action. To a certain extent, this kind of reaction from seriously gung-ho soldiers being kept away from the action can be understood. However, the feeling of disappointment seems to cross over into serious anger. Although most likely an exaggeration, Kurt, our author, describes the feeling among the men as mutinous. If I've gauged this correctly, then it ties in with an inferiority complex that the early Waffen-SS units were dealing with that I touched on in part 1 of the series. Let me know in the comments section below if you agree. This rare footage showing an SS unit during the campaign in Poland ties into that theory. Without my Patreon supporters, the purchasing of the originals used in these videos wouldn't be possible. If you're not yet a member, please consider becoming one. Channel supporters get access to exclusive film footage, for example, the complete clip of the Waffen-SS unit in Poland. This is the War Atlas that was produced by the German High Command for Operation Barbarossa. We are looking at June 22nd, the day the invasion began, and can see the motorized SS Infantry Division Das Reich situated about 125 kilometers behind the front line. June 23, 1941. We've been put on alert, being informed that marching orders should be coming in shortly. This calms down the excited tempers somewhat. June 24th. Our battalion begins to move, passing over Koch, Radzyń, and ending up in Pierzeszod. In a forest we set up our tents, and then everyone is released from further duty for the day. June 26th. We continue on passing over Mijelis, Lachowka, Volka, and Tiraspol, and just past midnight in the darkness we arrive to the outskirts of Brest-Litovsk. Now let's add the rest of the chess pieces to the situational map for June 26th. The arrow with the circle's markings indicate that Das Reich is traveling by vehicle in a convoy. As we see, the 10th Panzer Division on Das Reich's left flank is also traveling in a convoy. Now let's zoom out and take a look at Army Group Center for this day. To the northeast of Das Reich, we see the German Panzer divisions racing forwards to put the lid on what would become the Bialystok-Minsk pockets. With this defeat, the Soviets lost about 420,000 men, and many believed would lead to the quick ending of the war. If you're interested in seeing videos about the individual units taking part in these operations, take a look at my channel. There are plenty. Here we encounter the first evidence of the war, finding destroyed guns, dead Russians, and plenty of munition and destroyed vehicles lying to both sides of the road. These photos are from Kurt's private collection. If by chance you are interested in buying this original collection, open a free account on my website, military1945.com, and message me there. When it's sold, I'll pin that information to the top of the comments section below. On the website, you can also see an example of the exclusive content Patreon supporters get access to, so open an account. General Guderian, who was in command of the 2nd Panzer Group in Army Group Center, had decided that infantry units would be more suited for assaulting the massive fortifications at Brest-Litovsk than his tank forces. The attack had begun on the first day of operations, and the city would be quickly cleared of the enemy. In the fortress, however, stiff resistance would continue until the end of the month. Soviet propaganda produced during the war claimed that the battle continued until July 23rd, which most likely isn't reliable. Occasional potshots from individuals continued, but there was no organized resistance. As we continue with Kurt's description of his battalion passing through the city, we'll see footage of the combat that was taking place inside the fortress. The city has been cleared, but inside the fortress, heavy combat continues. On all sides, extensive damage from intense fighting can be seen. There's evidence everywhere that the enemy has turned tail and run, abandoning hundreds of tanks and guns, many of which are still loaded with ammunition. On the streets, and often in rows, lie hundreds of dead horses which stink terribly. For us green soldiers, these experiences are completely new. We stare, mesmerized, at the death and destruction. So this is what war's like. Although there's plenty of small arms fire, our columns go right through the city unmolested and continue on into Russia. In part 3 of the series, we will continue on with Kurt's diary as he describes his unit's first taste of combat, see more of his associated photographs, and follow his battalion's progress using the situational maps. If you haven't subscribed yet, do that now, and also please consider becoming a Patreon supporter. Thanks for watching.